De Niro. In Bang the Drum Slowly, the critics called him a brilliant new talent. Under Mean Streets, they said he was a genius. For his performance in The Godfather Part 2, they gave him the Academy Award.
Come on, man. Just get me out of here, all right?
Now, Robert De Niro creates a terrifying portrait of life on the edge of madness.
Yeah, but just forget about this. It's nothing.
Taxi Driver, a film by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, people do anything in front of a taxi driver. I mean, anything. People too cheap to rent a hotel room.
Oh, driver, hurry up, will you?
People want to embarrass you. It's like you're not even there. It's like, like a taxi driver doesn't even exist. This city here is like an open sewer, It's full of filth and scum. I think I know what you mean, Travis. But it's not going to be easy. You guys get to be a Secret Service man. What? Well, I was just curious because I thought maybe I'd make a good one. Hey, what kind of guns do you guys carry? 38s, 45s, 357 Magnums, something bigger maybe?
In 1976, the year that Taxi Driver was released, the murder rate in New York City was around 11 murders per 100,000 people.
It's nothing.
It's quite something. It's quite something.
That's just fudge factor.
It's quite something. It's quite something.
Polling error. That's
Look what they were trying to show in Taxi Driver. There, I was just watching that yesterday. I thought, this is so 70s awesome, and New York is so gross. Like it's just so gross.
Also, can I just correct the name is Score Cheese, not Scorsese. It's Score Cheese.
I never said Score Cheese.
I'm just letting everyone know that's the actual way of pronouncing the name.
So, so 1976, New York's about 18 million people. I don't know the population of Australia in 1976. Probably was smaller, but
I think it would. It would have been.
Yeah, but that meant around 2,000 murders every year, or about 5 every day. So, just somewhere in New York, there's 5 people getting murdered every single day. Now, just to put that in context, the murder rate here in Australia at the moment is now 1 murder per 100,000 people per year, which works out to be total. About 250 murders a year the whole time.
That is 250 too many, man.
It is 250 too many. I'm down. I'm down with you. But it's like a tenth. It's like a tenth of the murder rate that they saw in the era of Taxi Driver.
It's actually like an 11th.
Well, 2000 divided. No, it's a ninth. It's a ninth.
That's what I meant.
Don't.
They're both prime numbers.
If you want to dive in with corrective maths, you got to get your corrective maths.
Both prime
right.
numbers, 9 and 11.
But anyway, so Australia solidly less. Still, murders are horrible, but less than 1 per day. When they were doing in New York in the 70s, 5 per day. Now, so Taxi Driver, 11 murders per day. But the thing is, it hadn't always been that way. Now, while the records are a bit patchy.
Well, we have Gangs of New York as a record. I think that was more than 11 a day.
How many did you count, though? I mean, that was one day, though.
40 bajillion.
There was a lot of killing.
There was a fair few murders.
Okay. I don't know. Well, that must
Historical
be
record.
But historically, the average murder rate was much closer to what you see in Australia now. Not quite as low. So in 1960, it was less than half what they saw in 1976.
Oh.
So it was like 4.6.
So it really took off.
And in the 50s, 40s, and 30s, it might have been as low as 2 per 100,000 people.
So what I'm hearing is Taxi Driver probably caused it to go up.
It could be Taxi Driver that caused it. So here's a chart you can see there. So this
I really can't, but I will now.
I'll show you, and then I'll show people on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Look at my glass.
But you can see between 1960 and 1970, there's a huge jump in the murder rate in New York City.
Because of the movie?
Well, actually, the movie was 1976 when it was well entrenched as.
Yeah, but it was being filmed earlier.
Yeah, okay. They had to make New York murdery.
Yeah,
and then we'll film it so
it can be realistic.
So what you have to do is have sex in the taxi and then murder some people, and then we'll go
with a 13-year-old Jodie Foster prostitute.
Yes,
I think she was 13, right?
She was young. Yeah. Did she get an Academy Award for it? Like, I think that's the.
Oh, you couldn't get one back then if you were female, young, or a hooker. You didn't know that?
I don't know the rules.
The Academy was old school back then.
Okay, but it had jumped up enormously between the 50s, 40s, and 30s, and then in the 60s and 70s it just jumped enormously. And so everyone at the time, and by everyone I mean both everyone, people.
Both everyone and other.
No, and then also specific everyone in the terms of like criminologists, people who looked at this kind of stuff.
Everyone and all the people,
Yeah,
including specific
all the people and the specific
and
people.
everyone.
But the criminologists as well as everyone. So politicians, General Joe Public, and criminologists.
God, what a great name.
Joe Public.
General Joe Public.
Well,
General Public. I never thought of that.
there you go. You could be General Public.
No, I might be Colonel. I can't take the pressure of leadership. I should be semi-down.
Where was it? Yeah, so they thought this is just the way it's going to be. Like maybe we've moved to the cities and sorry, but it's just going to be this murder rate. Or society is just declining. Society is going to the dogs.
And
it's just
canary in the society mind, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing there. So they thought crime was on an incessant rise, just getting worse and worse. Murder was a big part of this, but lots of other crimes as well. But
I like shoplifting.
But the thing was, it wasn't just New York. It was everywhere in America, cities throughout America, and in fact, most parts of the developed world. In the years around 1960, 1970, crime just went up all over the developed parts of the world. Yeah, there's a huge marked
Except for here, because we're so fucking civilized.
Well, we'll come to here. There are differences. Like they jump to different amounts. So
our crimes are all white collar because we're highly educated.
Maybe.
White collar murder.
There might have been some other things. But anyway.
White collar murder.
But anyway.
It's a thing.
After 1976, Taxi Driver, for the sequel, I don't know if there was a sequel, Taxi Driver 2, but they needed to step it up.
No, it's called Another Cab.
Another Cab.
Just Another Cab.
But it continued to get worse. So 1976, it was...
Uber Driver. Sorry, carry on.
I will carry on because I don't know what...
What a boring movie. So you got a taxi driver, Uber driver. No, I don't care.
Okay, 4 years later.
Yep.
So it's gone from 11 per 100,000. Then by 1980, it was 12.7.
Oh.
By 1990, it was 14.5.
Oh.
So we're growing.
Well, that was, sorry, 1980.
1980.
Yeah.
So 4 years later, it had jumped to 12.7. And then 1990.
On 90.
By 1990, when Nirvana was playing, it had got up to 14.5 per 100,000.
Jeebus.
But something happened. At about 1990, crime and here murder was a big one. But
it is a crime. That's true. It is a big crime.
But all crime suddenly started going away. So
in New York, around the world again.
Both around the world. So I'm just using New York because I've got the stats from New York here. But it went down in cities throughout America, all of America, throughout the industrialized developed world. Crime just started going down, and it was all crimes, nearly all crimes, just started going down from about 1990.
I know what it is. It's that hippie dude, hippie physicist. Was it Feynman or one of those who said, no, it's morphic resonance, man.
Morphic resonance? Oh,
my God. Morphic. Have you got it in there?
I don't have morphic resonance.
You know, that was the thing where someone noticed, I think it was in the 80s, someone noticed that if you, an original thing that was first crystallized, was really hard to do. Then someone crystals it in India, and then suddenly someone in Africa can do it more easily, and then it got easier and easier.
Oh, because it's like the resonance in the universe.
Of the morphic fields. That's just physics, man.
I'm going to confess.
For all our physics listeners, this is the same thing.
I'm going to confess that morphic resonance doesn't come up.
Well, then you haven't done your research.
In this episode again.
You have not done your research.
In this episode again, but I can put it in. I will put it in for you.
I can bring it up again.
I'll put it in for you.
You're going to edit it in post?
No, I'll just remember to put it in. Morphic resonance. Yeah, no, everywhere. Around it started going down. Crime just started going down. So yes, New York was a sort of famous story at this time because there was a guy who was a jerk and he said a lot of things about it. We'll come to him a little bit later.
Jerk guy.
But throughout the OECD, Europe, Australia, Asia, all throughout North America, Canada as well, they were going down. Yeah. So as I said before, just with the New York murder stats, because that's, taxi driver cool.
It's fun stats.
In 1990, 14.5 per 100,000 murders. Yeah. By 2000, so 10 years later, it was a third. So it's down to 5 per 100,000.
I know why.
Why?
One man.
No.
Carry on. I won't ruin it. It's one man.
And now it's in New York, it's just under 3, which is above Australia, but back close to the historical average that it was in the 40s and 50s. Now, just a quick side note, there's a whole bunch of people who don't believe this at all. Like, as in people...
Are they QAnon?
No, as in if you ask people, General Joe Public again, if you ask them, what's the crime rate like nationally, and they'll say, it's going up. It's going up. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Crime Crime around the world has been going down for 30 years now.
I know why. Redefine crime. That's not a crime anymore.
Well, I'm glad you say you know why. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
No one fucking does. Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the science podcast for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
And in which we used to ask ridiculous questions so you don't have to, but now we just make ridiculous comments instead because I don't have any questions anymore. I'm without curiosity.
You've asked questions and you've put in hypotheses already.
Oh my God, I'm good at this.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Morphic Resonance Grant.
And me, Dr. Roderick Griffin. I think crime is staying stable and has done in perpetuity. Lamberts.
We're brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science. And
crime stats. And we should be brought to you by that delicious awesomeness because that beer is Dark Island Reserve, the extraordinary Orcadian ale aged in whiskey casks.
That is what you get when you go a little bit tipsy beer shopping or feeling a little bit, I don't know, splurgific or something like that. That is a crazy beer. But anyway.
It's delicious.
Anyway.
It tastes and smells like Christmas.
Hang on. We did Wholesome Show. We did Your Name, My Name. We did Centre for Public Awareness of Science.
Yeah, we did. We talked about beer.
Yeah. All right. Oh, cool.
I think we can do a story.
We can go story. All right.
Look, but it's not finished?
It's not finished. It's not finished. And this blew my mind. I'm going to tell you. Just to start this off, I started looking into this a couple of days ago, and I read.
He means months because we researched for months.
Yeah, months and months. Decades. Well, to be honest, I had a story in the back of my head that I've had there for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, that's it. And I just looked around for a bit, and I saw.
Is the original story? Why does it hurt when I pee?
No, it wasn't that. It's
because I'm researching that one right now. It's very interesting.
No, I don't.
Next week.
Yeah. And it turns out that story is one component of what I'm going to tell you in a second. But then I started reading, and then all of a sudden I was like, but hang on. What the hell? How is this what it's like? Now, what I'm going to do, first I just want to tell you a little bit more details on the crime drop, giving a bit of a picture internationally. And then I want to go through a little bit about what people think actually caused it. And
I already know.
Morphic resonance.
One man.
It's not that guy.
It's one man.
It's not that guy. It's not that guy.
The man and the ongoing legend. We'll get to that
now,
later.
I'm going to draw a lot from a paper by Graham Farrell, Nick Tilley, and Andromachy Tessaloni in this, but that might mean for criminologists listeners out there that I have missed this whole other side of the debate. I've used as many sources as I could, but it seems to me that...
One? That's fair.
No. There's a bunch of others.
Oh.
All I'm saying is it may not capture some other nuances in the debate because I was surprised at how diverse things go.
You realise like our 8 million criminologist listeners now are out.
Yeah, they are. So Farrell, Tilley, and Tessaloni said the crime drop is the most important criminological phenomenon of modern times, and I totally agree with them because suddenly going from a situation where you have so many murders to not nearly
less.
as many. You've dropped the murder rate
75% or something.
Yeah, as much as from its very peak at 14.5 in New York down to 3.
Oh, that's 812%.
You've dropped down to 20%. You've dropped 80% of the murder rate. Now, if I just wanted to, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking if you had a similar phenomena in another big social issue, obesity or cancer,
coronavirus,
and if you suddenly dropped over a period of a decade, 80% in cancer rates or 80% in obesity, or
so you're suggesting crime is a disease?
Yes, I am suggesting crime is a disease. I'm happy with that.
Ooh.
But more importantly, if it's weird that the world hasn't really noticed because this is a huge good news story.
Yeah.
But it's also so weird that we don't know why it happened.
Because no one gives a shit about good news. It's boring. Crimes drop, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Look. If it bleeds, it leads. I get that. Yeah. But still, it's so weird.
It should matter. I agree.
Now, so I'll just read from their introduction for a second. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Ooh.
25 years ago, had anyone, and I think this is 2014, so in 1990, had anyone had the audacity to suggest that crime would soon embark on a steep and prolonged decline in most advanced countries, he or she, or they, I've added they, would have been laughed out of the room. It was unthinkable. Hence, while it's popular to start such essays such as this by pillorying these criminologists who predicted crime's incessant rise, it's rarely acknowledged that such views were almost universally held. Basically, everyone in 1990 or back as far as the 70s just thought crime was on
This
that.
is what crime does.
This is what crime is.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
what crime is.
Okay.
So, how did they describe the crime drop? There's emerging...
Well, it started high,
and then went
and
low.
then it got lower.
I
did 4 years of criminology.
I can skip these long paragraphs. There's emerging scientific consensus regarding the existence of an international crime drop, with remaining debate focusing on the specifics. The most reliable sources of information are victim surveys, which I find interesting, particularly national surveys in England and Wales, France, Netherlands, United States, all of which have find many different types of common or street crimes, such as assault, burglary, car crimes, have declined dramatically since the 1990s. National sources are added to by the International Crime Victims Survey, the only methodologically standardized general victim survey, and it indicates the international nature of crime's decline. And then they say, we can add to this with shitty sources, including police data. They didn't say shitty sources, but they are saying the less reliable sources.
But to be fair, internationally standardized doesn't mean on its own anything other than we're all doing it the same way.
It means reliable, not valid. Yes,
doesn't mean it's great.
That's okay. That's okay. But what they're saying, we're using the best data we can find. But it starts at the best.
We're finding the best data we can use.
But they're saying that police recorded crime data is a lot worse than the.
Well, they got different motives.
Victim stats, that's a different story.
They're not researchers.
That's another thing entirely.
No.
Okay.
Anyway. Their motivations are different. They want funding or they don't want funding. They want scrutiny or they don't want scrutiny. It's different.
It is.
Except for the police on TV who only want to help people. Except for that one corrupt guy you never expected till the end. You're like,
never have a
it was
corrupt guy.
him?
Except at the end of The Wire where
It's in TV. Don't tell me I haven't watched it yet.
haven't you?
Is it good?
It's great.
I've heard nothing about it.
It's great TV. It's great TV. So here we go. The extent of supporting evidence they provide is rather overwhelming. The likelihood that so many different sources in different places point in the same direction by chance is infinitesimally small.
Okay.
There is variation in when, by how much, and which crime types have fallen. So, some countries it's fallen more because maybe there was more to fall. Or some other things. There's some dates at which it happened and some crimes changed differently. But they're all, nearly all, one or two crimes in particular, nearly all going down.
That's cool.
But such variation around the mean is to be expected in real world and adds to the overall credibility. So it's not routinely from 1990 every single crime trends down exactly the same rate.
Yeah.
Which then you'd go, hang on, our surveys are flawed.
Or alien overlords, like something in the water, chemtrails, something like that.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, here's one of the. So this is the National Crime Survey in the US. So it's got 4 different types of crime. So violence, vehicle theft, violence, theft and burglary. So stealing stuff, property crimes, and violence. But they're all pointing down from 1976 there, heading down towards 2012.
Okay.
So lots of different crimes and lots of different countries. Let's go some examples here.
That is, I'm intrigued. You have my attention.
It's
not common.
In the US, in the US, violence in the United States had fallen 70% since 1993. Household burglary...
70?
Yep. Household burglary, larceny theft also fell over this period, but had been in decline longer. So there's some little quibbles. So, for example, like between 1973, burglary fell by half and then continued between another half again between 1994 and 2011. Yeah. Okay. Canada pretty much matches the US almost identically.
There's no crime in Canada.
Well, so they did normalise.
We've fallen from fuck all to absolutely none.
Yes, they followed the same chart from fuck all a little bit more to fuck all a little bit less. But the same shape of curve, even if not the same height.
You know what I'm thinking? Morphic resonance.
It's morphic resonance. Okay, another country, the UK. Again, a crime drop with timing similar to the United States. Again, following around 3 decades of increasing crime in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Household crime rate peaked in 1993. Personal crime rate peaked in 1995. And then by 2012, all of that had fallen by 64% and, household crime by 64%, violent crime by 56%.
That is wacky. And staring over your shoulder at the shape of those graphs, which I know is cheating.
No, you can look at them now. That's the US and Canada.
The shapes are bizarrely the same.
Yeah, they do echo each other. Like they're not identical. They're far from
No,
identical.
but I mean, what's the span? How many years are we talking down the bottom on the X or Y axis?
So 50 years, from 60 to 2010.
Yeah, that's weird. The similarity of the shapes is quite remarkable. And I mean, obviously, I am a data scientist and an extremely accomplished statistician, so I ought to know if it seems unusual.
Oh, you are famed for your correlation analysis.
But no, seeing something like that, like if you are plotting graphs and you look at your data and the curves are that similar, you'd be going,
Something
rigged.
Something here. Well,
Rigged.
Yeah, okay, yeah, rigged. And yeah, that is not actually one of the hypotheses, but there is interesting things.
Well, no, you start there and then you go and look for the actuals. Obviously, it's not rigged because this is a good people show.
It is a good people.
There's no fraud on this show.
No. This is a good story. It's just an interesting one of It's weird.
Weird.
Australia and New Zealand, they followed the same, but the data is shittier. Sorry, Australia and New Zealand crime stats, but you don't seem to be as good as other countries.
We're more relaxed people.
New Zealand seems to follow the timing of the rest of the world. Australia seems to be about a decade later for some reason.
It's always the way.
For some reason.
What have the English decided was shit? Okay, we'll take it on then.
Yeah, but 10 years
That's
later.
how we roll.
10
exactly.
years later.
Like, they've proven it's garbage.
It's like when America got, like, what was it? You know, they've got pizza in America and then we bring it to Australia about 10 years later.
Well, Americans invented pizza.
Maybe. I don't know about that.
That's controversial.
Yeah, so Australia peaked around 2000 for a lot of crimes and then went down from there. New Zealand peaked in 1990. So I don't know why we were so slow. It kind of confuses me. It takes a long time for
big country
morphic resonance to get down to Australia.
Big country. There's a lot of landmass for that to traverse.
So most of these crimes, you can drill down into particular crimes. So often people are just categorizing as violence or theft.
That's a bit blunt.
Those are big categories of they're two categories of bad. But for example,
I stole some chewing gum versus I stole an entire building. They're different levels.
That's true, but both theft.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not arguing with that. I mean, they're both wrong, kids. If you're listening, they're both wrong.
So where do we go? So for example, sexual abuse, rape, things like that, down across the board, across all countries. We're seeing from 1990 to 2010, we're seeing drops of 30 to 60% in these sorts of
That
crimes.
one I think is curly, just legitimate comment because, and these arguments have been going on for quite a while, especially with child abuse and so forth.
About reporting?
Yeah, is there more reporting?
Interesting.
In particularly sexual assaults and so forth, I think. That's a very interesting category.
This is interesting. I think sexual abuse, there is differences in data. So the most reported things are often auto theft because it's reported for insurance purposes.
Yeah. Also, there's no freaking shame and stigma and horrible crap associated with it.
Absolutely. And so you get messier and messier data when there's shame and stigma around it.
Yeah.
What the victim of crime stats are trying to do is trying to be, first of all, is reliable, as you said before. Can we get a picture of what's going on? And so those are a way of getting anonymous data that doesn't go through the whole reporting process that gets the stigma.
Yeah.
So it doesn't negate that fact that there are changes in social norms about reporting.
Yeah.
Totally. And that there are stigmas from reporting. But it does seem to be that the picture is still there. There has been actual solid decline. Like child abuse is actually down. It's down by a solid amount, which is again another really good thing.
God.
Yeah, indeed.
Or rather, don't.
So yeah,
That's
they
another
boil it
story.
all together. Significant and prolonged crime drop in many industrialized nations. Extent and nature of the crime drop appear to be more similar between more similar countries like Canada and the United States.
You're right.
As
opposed to Canada and Chad.
Here's the interesting thing though. When we're trying to explain what's going on, all of the countries have followed very different social policies over these years. I mean,
of course, because it wouldn't be interesting if
but this is the thing. I mean, if you have the same effect happening in New Zealand and the United States and Australia and France and Netherlands and Japan, we've followed very, very different social policies, policing policies in those times. So it actually gets really quite hard to explain.
Oh, I know what it is. Morphic resonance.
The extent of the evidence means that the likelihood that crime drops in different countries are a coincidence is vanishingly small, which implies a causal link. Now, the other thing is, they've all got the rapidly increasing crime in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
So they all follow the increase in crime and then decrease in crime.
There's more wealth.
Now,
boomers,
so that's
boomers, you can't trust them.
That's all the good stuff. But this is the thing, and this is the fact that it is very hard to explain kind of baffles me once you start drilling into this, because it's a huge good news story, and it's like of the success stories of the last 25 years or 30 years, there's not very many things that come close. Like if I wonder
if it's hard. Like the reason it hasn't gotten out, because I agree with you, it's a good news story. Why the fuck isn't it being out there? It could be because we don't believe them.
Potentially.
Like if you say, the neighbour down the street there, she's weird and she eats your cat, and people go, oh, for sure she does. But if you say, she's wonderful and she'll come around and water your garden without telling you, and you're like, no, I don't buy it. No one gives a shit about the positive rumours.
Flip it around. Whose interest is this? Whose interest is it to get this out? So police
Jeff Bezos.
But they're not terribly interested. I mean, maybe Jeff, I don't know. But, or politicians. The story about crime going down globally, I don't think
is this a conspiracy of criminologists?
I don't know.
Because it's not in their interest either. Oh no, we solve crime. What are you going to do, man?
I will come to a conspiracy theory argument at the end.
Thank God.
About criminologists, not to sledge them, because I think their work here is awesome. I think it's done some really, but there is an interesting split in some of the data. I was thinking this, it's like. As I said before, if cancer rate had dropped and then the oncologist didn't know what they did had made it right, or if we didn't know what's going on, or if we in the world of science communication had got all of I don't know what's the biggest success that you could imagine in science communication to happen in
littering.
Littering, is that it? I was going to go
vaccination.
No,
climate.
You're very worthy.
Obviously,
you're very worthy. If that had happened, I was going with if everyone's scientist became the number one like porn category or something like that.
It isn't.
I don't know.
A friend of mine who looks at porn regularly. Sorry,
but if all of a sudden, sustainably, scientists became the top porn category and stayed there for 20 or 30 years, and we had no explanation for why people were doing that, then wouldn't that be weird?
We should put that to the dean of science of our own university and say, we've got an alternative metric here. How many of you slack fucks are top level porn category clicks?
Wouldn't want to be judged by that, though. I think we might fail.
We're not scientists. We're just science adjacent.
Okay.
As if you'd be fabulous in porn.
Thank you.
Because you're enthusiastic. Your enthusiasm for life would certainly transfer to the camera.
Giving, generous. There you go. Thank you. Okay. Let's moving right along.
Very quickly.
There you go.
We'll get back to that later.
So these guys, the people that I'm drawing from here, the Farrell, Tilley, and Saloni, they brought together 17 hypotheses. And these are only the hypotheses that have been discussed, they said, with some legitimacy in the criminology literature.
17.
And then they said, for example, there's a bunch of hypotheses that have been put out but not taken up by criminologists.
Like morphic resonance?
No, that are still pretty legitimate, like that aren't terribly bad. So, for example,
how dare you?
No. There's way more than 17 possible explanations for this, and so one of the ones that they said, for example, in this time, DNA fingerprinting has gone around, and that's got a lot of media attention, so maybe people are worried about that, blah, blah, blah. But it hasn't been fully discussed in the criminology literature, so we can't actually address that one right now.
But that is an interesting call, so the fear of retribution, easy to get busted.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you these 17, but I'm going to tell you they've got 4 criteria that's pretty easy to work out to judge. And you've got to work out, Rod, if they're a good answer to the crime drop hypothesis.
All right.
So what they need to do, they need to be able to, can it account for the drop in different countries?
Mm-hmm. So different social policies, cultural mores, and it still works.
Can it account for...
So culture independent?
Yep. Or country independent, not just culture, but country. Can it account for the rise in crime beforehand?
Okay.
Can it still account for the fact that there are 1 or 2 crimes that are still increasing? And here it's online scams and phone theft, which is weird. And it's
phone theft.
Yeah, phone theft is...
Yoink.
Phone theft increased enormously from 1990 because phones existed, but you still have to you have to account for that. So
they turned into pocket computers, and that's a pretty tempting and easily portable thing. Anyway. So,
and number 4, can the hypothesis account for variability in crime falls between different crimes in different countries? So can it point to why is there variability?
Where's your whiteboard?
Yeah, no, it wasn't just there. It's a blackboard, but
it's because you don't see color.
Well, don't worry too much about that. We'll go through each of them as you go. So they're pretty simple to explain each hypothesis, and we'll just see. Okay, so number 1, the strong economy hypothesis. So this says that the economy improved everywhere in the 1990s and reduced the incentive for crime.
So 1990, it was 80s was Greed is Good, right?
80s is Greed is
That
Good.
was Gordon Gekko.
That's Gordon Gekko.
So 90s was Greed still pretty tops, but let's not do crime. So the economy got better, therefore there was less need.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I don't like that one. It's too
No, I agree.
too messy.
Well, it does. Well,
The economy is not a thing for individuals.
It doesn't explain sexual crimes, which tend to not have any economic motive at all. So obviously, it might explain
What
theft.
would it be?
Yeah, well, there you go. So it might explain theft, but doesn't explain sexual crimes. Doesn't explain the fact that economic improvements varied in different countries.
At all.
Happened in different countries at different
all.
times.
And within countries, it happens differently. So
okay.
that's not good.
Okay, so that's no good. All right.
No.
Concealed weapons laws. So this argument is that more concealed weapons increase deterrence on the streets.
It immediately varies wildly across countries.
And we don't have concealed weapons laws in Australia.
How do you know you can't see them?
So well,
I'm packing right now.
are you really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we don't have laws, so that would mean you're illegally concealing the weapon. But
So crime's going up. Boom, that one's out.
okay,
Either way.
it's no good. It's no good because that's a pretty US only one.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is actually there's two phases of the of this whole research. That it started when people started noticing this in the US, and they were like, "Why is US crime dropping?" Of
course
and so they gave so many explanations that are very US centric.
One man.
And then eventually they started looking and started saying, "Oh, maybe it's actually an international phenomenon, and we need to have something that explains across the board."
That's very that's broad thinking of the US. Usually they kind of go, the world is doing this now.
They're copying us.
They have the World Series. They have all seasons happen at the same time.
But this is why a lot of there's a couple of these theories at the beginning here that are very US centric. So concealed weapons laws. The next one, capital punishment. Is that a good account for this?
No.
Yeah.
Just no.
It's not good for
it's not good for anything. It's good for killing people.
Well, yeah. I mean, increased use of death penalty induced
Fucking balls. There's the correlation.
deterrence.
No. I've not seen anything that demonstrates that to be true.
Also, even in countries that have the death penalty, so it doesn't work internationally.
No,
so
does not.
Australia, the most civilized countries, doesn't cover that, but also doesn't explain the drop in fairly small burglaries.
Yeah, like you stole a cup, shoot him.
Well, exactly. So
not many countries do that.
Another one. Number 4, gun control laws.
US only, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And that's really hard to work out what they actually mean by gun control laws. Because
it means when you've got guns, right, there are parameters around their use and possession.
As much as I'm enjoying this paper, the Farrell paper, it does say gun control reduced crime due to gun control laws. And that explanation wasn't quite sufficient.
You got taller because your height increased.
So, yeah, not perfect. Okay,
I think that's you're very charitable.
Yeah, so all 4 of those are pretty bunkum, and they're sort of from the first phase of things. There's a couple more from the first phase that we'll come to, but so okay, number 5, imprisonment, increased incarceration. Do you think that was
capital punishment?
Doesn't even work in the US. So it didn't
work anywhere. And also that argument, the rationale for increasing incarcerations varies wildly.
Yep.
What you are incarcerated for how long, what incarceration looks like.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
The big failure there is that it doesn't point to any international trends. Whilst US incarceration rates have gone through the roof, other countries have gone up, other countries have gone down, but not in a stratospheric.
Well, they have the most, I mean, I know it's a slight aside, but it still breaks my brain. Private prisons. I just cannot get my head around that idea. The idea that you imprison people for profit is
it's an abomination.
In what world do you go, we'll do it?
100% abomination. I can't stand that idea.
Oh, God. Anyway. I could just say for an hour.
So people did say though, they said, okay, we're putting more people in jail, and so that's stopping the crimes. But it doesn't work because there's plenty of countries where they didn't put more people in jail, and also even in the US, the timing is very different.
And also the reasons many people are put in jail, what constitutes a crime for going to jail is not necessarily even listed on that. Like drug crime wasn't mentioned.
Well, there are many people still in jail in the US for crimes that are no longer crimes.
Yeah. But this is what I mean. So that 4 you listed the property and murder and sexual abuse and the 4th one. drug crime stuff wasn't on there. And
No.
that has a lot to do with a lot of imprisonments in many countries, obviously the US, also here.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting. Definite huge point here that the categories of crime, and we are looking here mainly at the sort of traditional criminal burglary,
Old-fashioned crimes.
Well, yeah,
gentlemen's crimes.
Yeah, well, where you're stealing stuff that don't belong to you, or causing or hurting stuff that don't belong to you.
Yeah.
Number 6, policing strategies. So
They vary wildly too.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. So the argument is that better preventative policing reduce crime. So, in New York particular, there's like CompStat where they're using stats to do things, or Rudy Giuliani and his
They're one man.
And he said that he fixed all the broken windows.
Yeah.
He just rode the wave. And I think a lot of criminologists are like, there's no argument that policing strategies don't have an impact on crime. But
that's true.
Criminologists tend to be more favourable with the idea of policing strategies.
It's also how do you measure crime? Is it number committed, number arrested, number prosecuted, number defined? I mean, even the notion of measuring crime.
The victim statements.
Yeah.
You're going to get the best sorts of rough measurements when you have more people answering a question of, did you get thieved?
Were you crimed?
Were you crimed against this year?
I was crimed.
Last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Thing is, policing strategies, it doesn't explain anything about why there was a crime jump in the 60s or 70s.
No.
And doesn't also account for the fact that there's a wild variation in the policing strategies, not just in different countries, but different cities, different cities. That there's all such a varied approach to it. You think of the for a start, the difference between the UK police that don't carry guns and the American police right now that are packed full of guns. And so there's
which country's safer? Obviously America.
Obviously.
The more guns, the more safety. Duh.
So probably policing strategy does make a difference, but it wouldn't show up on these national trends.
Not in a consistent way, no.
Global trends in this sort of way. No. Unless everyone was all of a sudden adopting if there was some sort of magical policy that
hugs, not truncheons.
Then it would be clear.
Yeah.
Again, a very similar one, number 7, is more police staff. So
just more police.
Just more police.
Yeah.
The main thing there is that yes, there's more police in some places, but
there's also more people.
Probably. I'm sure in America there's more police per capita than there were previously. I don't know.
But they have 18 different kinds of police forces too, or policing situations. Your sheriffs and your cops and your federals and your locals and your
exactly.
Your other, also your MISC,
miscellaneous police force.
Your private dicks. Your dog, the bounty hunters. I mean,
Pinkertons? Are they
the Pinkerton Detective Agency.
Yeah. Here we go. Here's a controversial one then.
Yeah.
Okay. Legalization of abortion. So.
What?
Yes.
What?
So there are arguments
led to crime reduction.
The legalization of abortion, Roe v. Wade in the US, and similar sorts of things in other countries around the same sort of time, meant fewer at-risk adolescents in the 1990s. So from 1973 is Roe.
Wow, that's real Freakonomics kind of call, isn't it?
In fact, only 100% literally.
Really?
This is the abortion theory comes from Stephen Levitt.
There you go.
Who is the
Freakonomics? Well,
one of the two
him and
Freakonomics.
his buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so controversial. So Donahue and Levitt, so Stephen Levitt of Freakonomics, proposed that the legalization of abortion in the United States in 1973 was a cause, and they say a cause, of the crime drop. They argued that legalized abortion reduced the number of births of children who would otherwise be at most risk of becoming offenders in their teenage years. Now, there are a
lot of implications behind that statement, but I see what he's saying.
Well, look, the evidence and methodology have been revised and updated.
So the gist of it is, poor, stupid, and at-risk people are more likely to get pregnant and have the babies. Born into criminal cultures.
Let's just work on the simple principle of
unwanted children need to commit crimes.
No. The theory goes an unwanted child may be less well raised than a wanted child. I think
I was unwanted. I'm impeccable.
That's fine. That's fine.
I became wanted. They had another one. They had another one. That's how much I changed that. No, I was wanted.
But the argument goes unwanted probably less well raised than a wanted child.
So
and then
if you don't dig into that, that has extremely easy appeal.
oh,
Extremely easy appeal. And I don't even know what the counters are, but, you hear an argument like that and people would go, whether they say it out loud or not, oh, that makes sense because, if you didn't mean to have a kid, then, fuck it.
like you can see the logical chain.
But I'd want to see the evidence before I'd be at all comfortable with asserting that being, behind a giant trend like this.
That's the problem.
Don't get me wrong, I like freakonomics.
That's
I think
the
they're
problem.
fascinating.
That's the problem.
But
that's the problem. That the logical chain is kind of there for at least the crime drop, not for the crime bump. Because what's the logical train that says suddenly you're not allowed to
more fucking.
So there was more fucking. Oh,
Yep.
that's a two-part hypothesis.
Yes.
More fucking after the war.
Yeah.
And then
Which we know happened.
it's not true.
No.
No,
Details.
But so this hypothesis only covers the drop, not the increase, which is a from
It only covers going down, not going up. I hear what you're saying.
But that's a problem. I mean, we need to account for the whole thing. Why did
Yes.
crime suddenly go up and then suddenly go down?
Yes, we do.
So this may only cover the going down. But
You
the problem
better goddamn have an answer at the end of this, or I'm going to be very dissatisfied, and I will never listen to this show again.
Man, don't put me on the spot because
Nah,
the
it's
answer,
fair to say I've never
the
listened to
answer-
it before.
The answer is going to be freaking we'll see.
It depends.
yeah.
You social scientist.
I know, right? I
You
know, right?
disgust me. We should change the name of this show to It Depends.
It depends. It's terrible. It's disappointing, listener, isn't it? Don't you hate when it depends? I know you want a clear answer, but that's the problem with stuff these days.
I call it a career.
Yeah, there you go. So what does it fail? It fails. It doesn't explain the uptick. The timing of the downturn is simply wrong for legalized abortion to be the driving force. So
Right. And again, US
yeah, it doesn't.
centric.
And then fails the cross-national tests.
Yeah.
In-depth analysis of abortion rates and crime in the United Kingdom couldn't identify evidence to support the hypothesis there. Another analysis in 20 different countries shows that the timing just doesn't work.
It's just not there.
It's just when you actually look at when the timing works, it's kind of close enough in the US. You go 1973 plus 18 years. Okay, maybe so. Then we start it's kind of got that plausibleness.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at the evidence in multiple countries, they said it works in some countries. So the data from some countries are consistent with the hypothesis: Canada, France, Italy. But other countries, Denmark, Finland, Hungary, Poland, it points in the opposite direction.
Oh.
So it just
Legalize abortion, steal cars.
yeah, exactly. So in other cases, crime was falling before legalization and doesn't decline any more quickly in that
So
period
the trend
after
continued.
legal.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it was falling already, and Japan and Norway, and then it kept falling. So that it's not even a blip.
Yeah.
So this is the thing: you've got to account for a wide range of different countries.
Okay.
It also doesn't pass the phone theft.
Why'd you nick my phone? Well, I had to have a baby.
So it's just the
baby nicked
phone
it.
theft bit is so weird in this theory, but I get why they do it. Okay.
But it really, I mean, it's fair to say in principle or in theory, the introduction of the pocket phone, aka pocket computer, has had some implications that I don't think other technologies have. That could be old guy talk.
No, totally don't. Yeah.
So I can imagine. I don't have a strong theory beyond that, but just
In
like
fact-
that's an unusual thing.
Well, hold on until hypothesis
Oh.
number 17. We'll get to that.
I'd like to think it was mine. So number 18.
19, immigrants. So immigrants commit less crime, and there were more immigrants in the 90s.
Commit less crime.
Yeah.
Well, that's shifted attitudinally.
No, well, the criminologists know this. When you look at the
No,
actual evidence-
attitudinally, not actually.
Yeah, no, but they're based on actual data. They're saying
Eggheads.
actual immigrants commit actual less crime.
With your non-racism and your data that backs up other things. Ugh.
But the problem is,
Yeah, bullshit.
it doesn't fit the pattern. Doesn't happen in the same
Doesn't
time.
fat the pitten?
Doesn't fat the pitten. No,
Yep.
it doesn't indeed. There's another version. You know how I said the strong economy? There's a slightly different version of that is hypothesis number 10.
The relatively strong economy.
Well, no, they said it was consumer confidence, where people aren't buying stolen secondhand goods so much.
because
So
other goods are cheaper already.
maybe that's it.
Why would I buy a stolen TV for $800 when I can get a new one for $820?
Again, doesn't really fit all of those other things like the murdering and the
I can buy a cheap TV. I'm not going to kill that cunt.
no more murdering. I'm done with murder. I get it.
I hated him. I hated him. But then
buying
I
a
got a cheap
DVD
telly.
player in the pub,
Yeah.
that's your gateway to murder. Like once you start there.
No, you buy it and you're like, I don't. I'm gonna go to Harvey Norman, not a sponsor of this podcast, and we don't want you to be.
Look, it's possible. It's
and
possible.
now I'm not going to kill anyone.
It's possible that may shift some of the, you're less likely to steal a DVD player when you.
But
can
see,
get
this
one.
is a critical point. The sum ofs. The problem with this, of course, is trying to find a sweeping overall generalization that works everywhere. It's like context matters.
What?
Did I just ruin the punchline?
No.
I mean, it depends. That's fine. Anyway, I'm going to go. Bye.
Okay. Number 11. Declining hard drug markets. So people are less on hard drugs, so they're less stealing stuff.
Bullshit.
The timing doesn't work. Okay.
Also, who's on less hard drugs? I've never taken more in my life.
Okay.
To be fair, I've never taken less.
Cool.
Because I'm not taking any.
That's nice of you. That's very good of you.
I care about the economy.
Here's number 12. And this was the one that I thought was the explanation.
Ah.
I thought that like previously.
Rudy Giuliani, I know we've had that.
Not Rudy Giuliani.
No.
This is how I came into this story. I thought, okay, that's what happened.
Okay.
And then I was reading and I was going, oh, but maybe it's not. Oh, that's really disappointing because this is really... And then I was like, oh, this is actually really freaking complicated.
This is going to be a good day, and then it wasn't.
Okay. You did a podcast ages ago about Thomas Midgley. Thomas Midgley?
Yes.
Midgley Jr.?
The benzene, etc., whatever he was.
And tetraethyl lead.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, he was the one that put tetraethyl lead in fuel. He also put CFCs
in fridges, in so
fridges.
He stopped the tapping, he improved the fridges, he destroyed the ozone layer, and also destroyed everything else.
And made crime.
And to be fair, he did strangle himself by accident on his own equipment.
I know. So he probably as a person was a nice human. But he accidentally committed significant
he didn't know
damage to the world.
But positive intention, so it doesn't matter.
So here's the theory. The increase in both cars and cars driving leaded petrol.
Retarded us.
It only literally. From the 1950s on, caused global IQ drops, and particularly in industrialized countries. So this is the interesting thing about this is it does explain the crime jump as well from the 1950s.
Because if you're stupid, you crime more.
Yeah. Look, and probably there's other. It's not just IQ. There's a bunch of other things that lead does to the brain. I think increasing impulsivity, which impulsivity is that's a direct crime correlate.
Yeah.
And then when you reach the 1970s, when we start phasing out leaded petrol,
we do the catalytic converters and
exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
The morphic resonance converters. And then you get the drop.
Morphic resonance is the converter.
Now here's so Rick Nevin.
That's an interesting call. I don't buy
the economist who first did this, and it's so bloody plausible. It's just so.
Are there related changes in IQs and stuff that have been measured nationally and all that sort of shit?
IQ in general is just going up. IQ.
So that kind of kills that one immediately.
No. IQ is going up. And I don't know how far back IQ has been measured nationally, but it has been going up. And some people say it's just because of the test effect. We're getting better generally at doing the test. Or we're more oriented towards doing the test, or there's less lead in the atmosphere, or not the topic of this episode, but I was actually vaguely thinking about doing IQ for this episode.
Haven't we both? Yes,
yeah, I know.
I pondered.
It's in that bag of, why haven't I done that one yet?
Just like me in penis transplants. Oh, it's not really an episode. That's just more personal musing.
But it's very much it clearly could explain that. Who knows if it does? But yeah. So here's this is he was teased a lot for this correlation, or not he, or the people, the advocates of this. But this is
Midgley's a root. No,
so this is the violent crime rate here in red, and the leaded petrol rate 20 years earlier.
The amount of fuel being sold, not the amount of lead in the environmental lead, as it were.
Environmental lead in the atmosphere, and there's a 3-year lag, and then they sit on top of each other really nicely.
Oh, they look
and
statistically those are the same curves.
Remember, those are
the same curves.
But then this is the thing: correlation how much can we use correlation here? We can't just go
equals causation is what I've heard.
Well, by the same token, you can't be those jerks that say correlation doesn't equal
it
causation.
doesn't.
So
No, that's not how it works either.
Therefore, nothing. It's somewhere in the middle.
Epidemiologists use it as one of the criterion as long as it's huge and it's plausible.
And so here's the thing. So Nevin's work was first done in 2000, followed up by a couple of other people, and it's been followed up by, so he did it on violence first. Then Stratesky and Lynch followed up a couple of years later to include property crime. And so they're saying with a 22-year delay, so basically they're saying maybe that's the average age of when these crimes are starting to be committed.
Which is an assumption, but I get it.
Well, again,
yeah.
it's like the abortion thing. There's a cohort effect.
Yeah,
something
that's
happened,
fair. Yeah.
and then it slowly worked through.
And we are talking hypotheses here, so that's fair.
Totally. The evidence suggests that with a 22-year delay, there's strong aggregate correlation between lead exposure and the rates of some crime types.
In America?
Well, here's the thing. We phased it out all throughout the developed world in different years.
Yeah.
And so the arguments from people like Nevin is that the delay in different countries, like Australia and things like that, echo the delay in when you brought in unleaded petrol. So,
okay.
and when you brought those laws in, because it wasn't all flick a switch and suddenly you get those laws everywhere.
No.
It took a while to get them all around. This is one of the things that gets me, though.
Yeah.
It's stunning how strong the association is, Nevin said in an interview. 65 to 90% or more of the substantial variation in violent crime in all these countries was explained by lead. 65 to 90% of the variation explained by his hypothesis.
Let's take away explain and say associated with, but yes, I see what he's saying.
But seriously, anyone's going
65 to 90.
I can explain 90% of the drop in crime. You know, this huge global phenomena.
65 to 90.
Okay, even 65.
Yeah, it's huge.
Anyone claiming they can explain 65% of such a complicated phenomenon.
So I'm gonna get statistical here. The word explained here is based on the equation that he used. I assume some kind of regression or association, which means it depends on the variables you plug in.
No doubt.
And there are a lot very in the world.
So that word explained was not in his paper. That was him in an interview.
Nonetheless, he would have been probably very careful with that.
Yeah, probably.
Because like the classic stat saying to be explained variance.
So the thing is to say anything can account for 90% of the variance. It's kind of gobsmacking.
But it's still, I agree. But it still comes down to what did you plug into that equation?
I'm
That's
with
what
you.
I mean. So it might have been 5 variables. It might have been a billion, and then you get into Asimov and psychohistory and amazing shit. Hari Seldon or whatever his main character's called. Then you're going crazy.
I have no idea.
The Foundation series. So the interesting thing behind Foundation series is this idea called psychohistory, and what it boils down to, my understanding is, mega database of abilities to measure every goddamn variable in the universe and plug them into an ultra equation. There's no variable left to measure, so you can predict with perfect confidence essentially. So this is not that, but the premise could be similar.
Could be along those ways.
Yeah.
Okay. But people, here's the thing. When I was looking for people talking about this, there's a lot of people that really believe in this and and have taken it on board quite a lot. So the United Nations is a huge fan. So they sponsored a study at California State in 2011, and their conclusion was ridding the world of leaded petrol, with the United Nations leading the effort in developing countries. I can imagine the marketing department getting that in. Has resulted in $2.4 trillion in annual benefits, 1.2 million fewer premature deaths. I don't doubt that.
Sure.
I don't doubt that. Higher overall intelligence and 58 million fewer crimes. So that's where they're drawing on Nevin's association here. Yeah. I mean, if they're saying this is the crime drop around the world, did lead explain it?
Look, and we know lead's not tops.
Lead is hugely, it's a neurotoxin. We've known that for 2,000 years. And then we went and put it into something that would go into the atmosphere over and over again, right next to our house.
You want to travel fast.
I know, without the knocking.
Yeah. I don't like that. Dakka. I had a combi. That's what it was like. It's very aggravating.
Did it really? What year did you live in?
I've lived in many.
That's a long time ago.
No, I had a combi that I think it had
Is it like Hitler's combi from the 30s?
Yes, it was. It was black and made out of all iron. But the tappet rattles, I think it was that kind of knocking noise. It's very distressing.
Look,
as if you wouldn't, fume a bit of lead, vape a bit of lead, just to make the noise not bother you when you're driving occasionally.
I don't know. Given that people knew from the very beginning that lead is pretty horrible, I think they had very much the idea that it would just disappear. Like once it's in the air, you
Don't
can't
worry
see
about
it.
it.
It's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Look, and that probably adds to the plausibility of this.
It does have truthiness. Like, it feels solid.
Like the abortion one,
Yep.
it feels so strong to me.
Feels
to
more
just-
solid than the
like,
abortion one.
The fact that it covers the up and the down of the crime curves.
And it's definitely global, because abortion is far less global in the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
way.
totally. And
Yeah, that's interesting.
and look, this is why it was my favorite theory. But
Until.
well, not until. I mean, I'm gonna look. This is why I don't think that Farrell and colleagues have got the perfect criteria here.
What?
Yeah. So anyway, a couple of other people have applied a long-term version of what's here termed the prior crime increase test. They identified multiple measures of lead exposure for the United States from 1910. So not just the petrol, but
paint
adding in
and whatever
paint
the
and,
shit, yeah.
and just general lead eating.
You put it in bread. Yeah.
All of that.
It
Put
makes
all-
bread tastier.
lead bread,
Yeah, when I make sourdough, a little bit of lead.
unleaded.
Unleadened. No, it doesn't taste as good, and it doesn't hold the Vegemite as well.
No, I doubt it. I just sink right down.
Yeah.
All proxies for lead increased dramatically from around 1910 through to 1970. So it makes the timing a bit different. Now, I don't know. I don't know how much. I haven't gone as far as I could into this, and I think the jury is still out. The difference between lead going into the atmosphere from leaded petrol versus lead paint. Lead paint, you actually have to go and lick and eat the flakes.
Or have it buried in your playground and roll around and rub it into your
I don't know.
cups.
I don't know the environmental movements there.
Yeah.
If the lead hypothesis is correct, then crime should have displayed a measurable increase between 1925 and 1985.
Oh, okay.
The US murder rate, however, decreased between the 1930s and 1950s.
Yeah, but you know why? A lot of the time, that's because the murderers were at war, murdering legitimately.
That's true, probably. Getting their murders out.
Yeah. Get out of your system.
Yeah,
I can tell I'm a
I
guy
did my
who's
murders
got to,
overseas.
I got to kill 200 to 300 people. I did 294.
done.
I'm good. I can come home now.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Probably not a great time to be doing that here in Australia. So
No.
given things. Anyway, so they reckon, based on this theory, that there was lead increasing in the atmosphere from 1910, but it doesn't fit the curve. Now, I think that doesn't quite explain the leaded petrol thing, but there's more there.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
It also, there's debate about how well it matches in different countries, and also how different times. Why did some crimes go differently? Surely you'd just go, okay, from the moment you start phasing out lead, then you get different times. Finally, it doesn't explain the increase in stealing phones and e-crimes after 2000. Which I don't know if that's enough of a reason. All right.
Well, look, it's a counter.
Couple more hypotheses. Changing demographics. Everyone's getting older, so doing less crimes. Probably plausible.
So if you're old, you're too lazy to crime?
Yes.
You've accrued your superannuation.
But actually, it didn't actually work like that. In their review for the National Research Council, Blumstein and Rosenfeld gave the demographics hypothesis short shrift, observing that during the sharp crime drop of the 1990s, age composition was trending in the other direction. So it didn't actually fit the evidence.
Okay.
So someone else proposed this civilizing process. And this is a little bit, Steven Pinker has said that gradually we're all getting more civilized. We're getting less violent. We're getting...
I like the way when you say that, you make it look like a downward curve. We're gradually getting more civilized and your curve arm drops down.
Yeah, more civilized.
Civilization is up.
Less violent. Well, more civilized, less violent.
Yeah, okay, I'll accept that.
I get a quote from Farrell, Tilley and Tessaloni here.
Yeah.
The civilizing process hypothesis is derived from the work of Norbert Elias, 1939.
God, Norbert's a great name, Karen.
Elias's study, no, it's so great. It is not about crime as we're discussing it
call
here.
me Norb.
The book's focus is largely feudalism and medievalism. Its 45 chapters cover, among other things, developments in each of going to the bathroom, blowing one's nose, spitting, and behaviour in the bedroom. A 9-page chapter on...
What, they don't all come together?
I don't know. A 9-page chapter on changes in aggressiveness is mainly about the joys of battle and hunting, and closely followed by the life of the knight.
Oh.
The index notes 2 references to violence, and then it says, the civilizing process does not follow a straight line, but if we consider the movement over large time spans, we see clearly how the compulsions arising directly from the threat of weapons and physical force have gradually diminished. Blah 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 blah. But he's talking about something that's much more over the 10,000 year era of history.
Yeah.
We're probably using violence less. Probably right.
Yes.
Probably right. But
Yes.
doesn't explain the crime drop or the
Just recently.
the 20th century crime bump.
No, it does not. Yeah, for A to be true doesn't mean B is as well. Yes.
Now this is the one that shits me entirely.
Oh, I like it. Now I'm in. I already accept that unrepentantly.
It just blows my mind because this is the one that passes all four of Farrell, Tilley, and Tessaloni's tests.
Et al. Will do now. You've said their name
Et
enough.
al. Yeah, okay, that's true. But I don't actually see that it does. So it's improved security. So basically, we've had cars that you can lock with a little press button.
Fuck yeah.
And stuff since they don't mention anything else.
Keys that work.
Engine immobilizers. Around that time.
That doesn't really cover rape.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I know.
That's what I said. I said it doesn't. And they get to the deep conclusion because they say this is the only one that passes the test. Let's do a big conclusion on this one.
Okay.
And then they didn't do rape. They did homicide. Homicide appears to represent a challenge. Like fucking it does.
Yeah, this shit
does.
is bulletproof except for the holes.
Or also extra hole in the sense it doesn't explain why crimes jumped up in the 60s and 70s. Did they have
Less security?
Engine immobilizers?
No, the 50s and 60s, just in the build up to that, they got rid of security. Everyone, it was the flower children, trust everyone, free love. It does work. Security dropped then.
Morphic resonance.
Security dropped then.
So I don't know why they got that. Like, I get that security may have made a difference in the 90s. It doesn't.
To some things,
It doesn't explain the violence and it doesn't explain the crime jump. So I'm sorry, as much as your paper
or the sexual assault, it does not.
Their paper did a lot of really good things, but their conclusions are weird.
All right.
Okay, number 16, the internet. People.
You don't have to say anymore.
Yeah, people.
Yes.
People were downloading more porn.
Which comes the
or
nerves.
they were doing e-crimes, like they were scamming people online, or more porn. So
more porn leads to less crime?
More internet leads to less crime, is the theory.
Because we're at home or on our phones more. Oh, that would explain the phone thing.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So it's perfect. That's
except for the fact that it doesn't explain the timing.
Details.
The internet started like people in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly.
No.
The last one you mentioned before is phone guardianship. So the idea that people have a phone around them, and so they are inherently a little bit more secure. So they can, they can phone a friend, phone the police straight away. So they are potentially more protected against violence directly against them. There, maybe able to report thefts, things like that, a little bit more.
I think arguably they're. This could be just because I'm a product of my time, but when I think about the thing, like I throw my phone in my back pocket, there is nothing I ever carried around in the past that was worth so much money and I had so much invested in. Like a wallet matters.
Yeah.
But a phone is worth potentially now what, $1,000 to $2,000.
Flip it around from worth though. How much do you value it?
Well, that's similar thing in this instance anyway. I agree they're different, but like, you carry this full on computer and your guide and your information connection and blah, 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 blah. You carry that around, and if it's gone, it's a serious pain in the butt. It's worse than having to cancel a few credit cards.
No, I don't doubt it.
And lose $100 in cash. Like this is far more annoying. So I don't know. I'm just theorizing off the cuff, but losing a phone sucks more than losing a wallet or anything else.
And could you imagine having a phone? Look, they say the evidence points to virtually no relationship between cell phone ownership and violent crime. I don't know.
So having a phone may or may not lead to violent crime, and not having a phone may or may not lead to crime?
I don't know. Basically.
I think they're right.
So that they are. Here's the thing: they are hypothesis, and the best that they came to was the security one, only because it didn't fail the four. But I don't see how it doesn't. I think it does fail some of them.
Well, because the idea of security having increased globally is not true.
Which is it? How can this huge global event, or at least industrialized, developed world event, that is manifestly one of the best things that has happened in the last 30 years?
Yeah.
A, how did we miss it? Okay, but B, what explains it, and why is it so hard for the people who study it to actually explain it?
Okay, a number of problems. I'm going to challenge the premise. The idea that there is a thing, I think, is a mistake. So and this is common. It's not because people are idiots, but it's not uncommon at all, and we know this very well for researchers and such folk, particularly social type folk,
to lump things together
or to look for the thing.
Okay, so you mean
the social thing?
So
Yeah.
you're accepting the crime drop, but saying an explanation. Yes, totally,
which
totally.
leads me to point 2. Let's not accept the time drop, the crime drop. So measurement.
Measurement
matters.
Measurement is tricky.
Measurement matters, and definitions matter.
So I'll just go with I think the measurement of crime is probably at least reliable enough that we can point to the fact that something happened.
Oh no, I don't mean I'm talking what constitutes a crime may also have shifted.
No
and the
doubt,
extent to
no
which
doubt.
that matters.
Okay, yeah, and that could be part of, but in a sense, that can be part of your hypothesizing of the cause of the thing. You know, what percent? Say if there's a 10% increase in reporting of things, then that's got to be explain a 10% increase or decrease in what the whole picture looks like. Totally.
It could, but I mean, like, so my thorn in the side of all of this is not considering drug crime.
Yeah,
and all the related issues, because that one is so thoroughly morally connected.
Well, that's an
beyond almost anything I can think of.
These covered the classic crimes.
Yeah,
not
the classics.
No, well,
as Chaucer used to write about.
The less moral in the sense, property ownership is still a moral position, but probably more universally accepted idea of certainly murder being a bad.
Yeah, murder bad, stealing bad, getting stoned not the same.
Yeah, exactly.
That's far more flexible.
That was not covered in here, and I think I don't know if that would actually fit into these definitions.
Look, and if it did, that would make me go, ooh, there's something, because that one, I mean, obviously it's an outlier in terms of how we constitute and decide what a crime is.
Well, let's go then with at least across a bunch of crime types that most people say are bad, and that some crime types there's a lot of debate about whether they're bad or not. So we'll put the drug crimes in there and take them off the table, because I think they're still politically debatable, and that's why I still wonder about the phone.
Do you know what
theft.
else is? This is controversial, but the notion of some sexual crimes are highly culture specific.
Oh, no doubt.
It boils down to what you consider to be acceptable behaviour or not.
Oh, 100%. And you know, a lot of the data I was showing there is from the Anglo-Saxon world. There are definitely correlates in the OECD, industrialized countries, but not necessarily. We don't have data for other parts of the world. So
no,
I think that's so. Yeah, okay. How much can you question what the crime drop is? I think that's worth doing. I don't think you would question it out of existence.
No,
I think that
but it would modify potentially your result.
Sure, and the crime increase, the whole picture of that change in crime. You know, we use the best data that we can. Then an explanation for the phenomena. I think the idea, as you said, the idea that there's going to be one explanation is really hard. But the fact that it's really quite uniform in the sense that from about 1990, I mean that's really hard. It's really hard.
It's plausible. It's plausible. There are multiple interconnected explanations, and those may have more primacy in one geographic location than another. Mm-hmm. So let's say that argument's sake, there are 5 things.
Yep.
And in Australia, the A, B, and C are the most potent. In the UK, it's A, B, and D.
Sure.
You know, so it could be there's a little constellation of things, and I wouldn't discount that.
So look, out of those, I still like lead. I still like the fact that you've taken out an environmental neurotoxin that suddenly probably
so that could be one of the strong ones.
That's a strong one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to commit to the abortion one because it feels so
Take
weird.
that out of context.
I know, right? That may or may not. I think the lead one is. I mean, so that's the other thing. Criminologists hate the biological explanations. They're all like, this is halfway to physiognomy or whatever those are. You know, the face type stuff.
Phrenology and eugemistics.
Yeah. Phrenology had its little brother physiognomy. And so they'll often say, look, these biological explanations are bullshit. We should explain these using at least sociological explanations. But
still comes back to looking for, if not one cause, but one kind of suite of causes.
Again, when the lead people say it's all lead or 90% lead, I think that's pushing it. But I think taking lead out of the equation probably made a big difference. I think I think adding mobile phones in probably made a difference in the sense of you know that does add a securitization security factor for people.
Yeah.
What are the other factors that you would put into there?
Look, again, I'm going to say it. I think then you're going to get back to context, and it depends. You
Come
know?
on. Give me which of
No,
these
but you do.
hypotheses?
Like so laws matter, but laws matter in context. You know,
Is
laws.
it the civilizing process? Is it?
But even that changes. You know, like, I mean, levels of education come into play here.
Level of education generally increased over this time.
Yep.
All of these.
But again, it depends where. So I think, you know, it might matter more in Chad that education went up, but it might matter less in the UK, but they got more phones. I mean, I don't know. I think the mistake ultimately is to look for single or close to single causes.
Totally with you. But I want you to say what your flock is.
My flock is, I think lead's a good one.
Yep.
I think other. Maybe actually
Misc.
okay, and misc. And the other one I might add is higher levels of interconnectivity, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay.
Just generically, not whether it's a phone or not, whatever. But I mean, that's been a significant change in the last 20 years.
Yep.
Just the fact that there's more shit available to people, thought-wise or input-wise, whether it's good or not.
Yep.
So I don't know what the exact effects of that would be. But it takes me back to when I think of this myself, when I have a question about something, pop culture otherwise, I grab my phone or my computer, I type it in, I get 19,000 answers. Mm-hmm. And I think back to when I was 25, I don't remember how I found shit out. Unless it was academia and I went to the library, I don't remember how I found out.
You know what you had to do when you were 25? You had to have the dumb argument with your mates.
Yeah, magazines.
And it's like you end up having a dumb argument over something and you're just like, why do we have to do this? We could have just looked this freaking thing up.
Yeah, but there's no way to verify it. And so, I mean, just that fact alone, like personalizing it, the fact alone that I could now pull out of my pocket access to the universe of all information ever, as opposed to before that I couldn't, that's got to have some effect.
Here's one thing that doesn't fit into their timeline, but maybe there's more things that are ratcheting up in this sort of direction. Now the fact that everyone has a camera and a camera able to film and send to the internet, does that have some sort of implication?
Potentially,
like do people, they become less likely to commit a crime, police less likely to be terrible, all those kinds of things because they can be filmed.
But that's even more recent though. That's cameras are.
Well, all I'm saying is, are we ratcheting up a variety of different shifts that are in positive directions? So lead being an early one, potentially abortion being an early one. But then adding in a bunch of other things like cameras and phones and cameras. Sorry,
cameras, comms, recording, all that stuff.
Better bureaucratic monitoring of police. All those things are ratcheting gradually. And from about 1990, they started to kick in.
Yeah.
They started to bring together an idea that we could have a safer world.
Maybe people just started to think, why be a dick? Maybe people started to get bored of being dicks.
Maybe everyone brought their being a dick into being a podcaster.
We did not. We are not dicks.
Are we not?
A little bit. I'm a bit of a dick.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and him, Rod Lamberts. You should check out our other podcasts. G'day Patriots is a great one.
Yeah.
And G'day Sausages, if we can ever do that again, because that'd be fun.
And come Christmas time, The Forge.
Yeah, do that one. Be back soon, listener.